If we haven't said so, we want to invite you to this dialogue. You know, we see a lot of you. We all spend time at these conferences. We've come to know many of you. And the point is that all of us have to be singing from the same hymnal on this. And as I started off saying before, this chart kind of depicts it. The internet became the large driver, but there's all the rest of things that there are to do with these networks. And for that matter, these things have not been fully exploited yet. They haven't been exploited at all. Those things are going to drive the development of the networks. They're going to drive the future. They have to be done in a way that's correct, and they have to be done in a way that's thoughtful, and certainly in a way that bears responsibility. It's certainly when a municipality, county, a state, a region is going to put their label on it that they can stand by. At the end of the day, these strategies are about where things are going. It's about the use of these networks far beyond just getting on the internet, but it's actually about doing real business and doing it in a very, very different way. Green initiatives that will be launched by this, certainly digital divide and inclusion issues. We haven't even talked about the fact that within this familial structure that we're entering into now with sometimes 4 generations in the home, 2 working income parents, that you've got to have that telepresence, you've got to have that monitoring capability, not just to see that Junior can get on the internet and do homework, but also to see whether mom's okay while, you know, the mother or the primary wage earner is in one state and the secondary wage earner is in another. So we're in a very, very different time period, and all these things are going to start to get real very, very quickly, as Ken has talked about. What I want to do is go ahead and cut this short and bring everybody up here so we can get into some questions and answers, and hopefully we can spend a little bit more time with you here and get into this. Ken, Ash, Tony, are you going to come up here? And Gary, I'm going to pass it back over to you.
Okay, while we're getting set up, got about a little over a half hour. I just want to open to the floor, and it'd be great if you could, if you've got a question that you can direct to one of the speakers in particular, it'd be great. We've got obviously a lot of expertise on the dais. If it's a sort of general question, and we could also pull on the wisdom of the crowd, because we've got a lot of knowledgeable folks out in the audience as well. So, questions? Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to know if we can get a copy of the presentations.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I should have mentioned that earlier. All the presentations will be, by the end of the break, all the presentations will be posted on the MuniWireless site. So if you actually just go to MuniWireless.com to the event page, you'll see that we're going to be posting all the presentations throughout the conference. So, and if you could make sure you introduce yourself before you ask your question, that'd be great.
Okay. Marsha Markerfeld, University of Rhode Island. I'm a city planner very involved with community organizations, and I'm asking Ken and others this question. I'm sitting here with a PhD, barely comprehending a third of what you guys are saying, and I'm wondering how you're going to communicate and train the community-based organizations, the non-English speaking, the illegals, low income. How are you going to train them to be able to ask you the questions and assess their need?
Go ahead, Ken.
Question.
I don't believe that one's on.
The answer to your question is not as straightforward as it may sound. There is going to be a huge... Oh, I'm sorry. Got it working now. See, I needed help with technology too. That's going to be a multifaceted situation. And when you talk about how can we speak to people who are, for example, English as a second language, which is a serious problem in this country, or for that matter, even illiterate, that's a problem that we're talking about in developing nations. And we're finding that there's an awful lot of applications that work quite well once the network is built. For example, if you have video communication and verbal communication, the ability to read and write becomes secondary. So, for example, in developing nations like India, or for that matter Africa, you'll see people using cell phones and using them quite effectively to get on with their lives. So the question is, how can we make this infrastructure useful to people more than how do we train them? my experience has been when you give someone a tool and allow them to play with it, they'll figure out uses that are good for them in many ways. Now, that's not a cure to the problem, but it does enable people to move forward. Now, when you say, how is it that we can explain stuff to you, and you have a PhD, believe me, I'm sure there's an awful lot of things that you can talk about that I have very little comprehension of. I think everybody here would be remiss if we didn't tell you, we've been beating our head against the wall for a number of years to learn what we've learned. A lot of the terms that we've come up with, we sort of invented as we went along. And if you're looking to become educated, we're here to try to educate you. If you need to follow up, please grab hold of me in the corridor, grab a business card, start an email discussion. There are a number of other ways that we can also get to you. Nash, would you like?
Yeah, I'd like to address it, particularly when you talked about the inability for people whose native language is other than English, as well as some of the terminology that we use that's fundamental to either high